Welcome into Seahawks Today, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. So glad to have you with us. Coming up on today's show, we're talking all trade rumors today, as the Seahawks could be shopping Sidney Jones. Also, could they make a move for a running back? That being Antonio Gibson of the Washington Commanders. We'll break down both those possibilities and more in just a few moments from right now. Let's start off with Sidney Jones, as it appears that he is on the market. That is according to ESPN NFL insider Jeremy Fowler. Now, if you have been a follower of this show over the last few weeks, then you would know that we've talked about this possibility, that it seemed like that Sidney Jones's best days in Seattle were behind him, that all signs kind of pointed to that the Seahawks had moved on to their next chapter. Well, here is what Fowler had to say in his reports on ESPN.com this morning. In other cornerback news, multiple sources say the Seattle Seahawks have made Sidney Jones the fourth available. Seattle would love to keep Jones, but is rolling with its young three-man corner rotation of Tariq Woolen, Mike Jackson, and Kobe Bryant. Jones, like most players, wants to play and can help a corner-needy team. And Jeremy Fowler's right. I mean, when you look at where this Seattle team is at with that cornerback room, it's evident they've already moved on. That at this point in time, Sidney Jones is not a part of the future. When you look at the Seahawks depth chart, Jackson, Woolen, and Bryant there, remember, another part of this, Trey Brown is about to return, a guy that started a few games last year that the Seahawks are pretty high on, and that's another piece. And so at the end of the day, there's just not space for Sidney Jones when it's all said and done. The direction of where things are going, with as well as Tariq Woolen has played, with looking like a contender for Defensive Rookie of the Year, and Kobe Bryant, although he hasn't been Tariq Woolen, he's been really good in his own right. Mike Jackson had an outstanding training camp. Where Sidney Jones wants to be as a corner, he wants to start in either an outside or a nickel role. There's just not room in this Seattle secondary for him right now, it would seem. So, with that said, and knowing what we know and what we've heard, should the Seahawks trade Sidney Jones? Type Y for yes, type in for no. There's not going to be a whole lot of trade value, I would imagine, for Sidney Jones, but nonetheless, is that something that they should do? Let us know in the comments section. Y for yes, in for no. You might get an ad break. If so, take advantage of it and tell me if Seattle should move on from Sidney Jones. In a moment, we will get to the Antonio Gibson side of things, of possibly bringing him into Seattle. But let's tell you more about Sidney Jones and the situation that led up to this. He missed all the preseason with a concussion, and his time on the field has been very limited in 2022. Just 45 snaps this season, and he's rotated on and off a bit with Mike Jackson, but we really haven't seen him much, hardly at all, and he's not very expensive, just on a one-year, $3.6 million contract, and the Seahawks, of course, have already paid some of that money, so if they were to trade him off, then his next team would not have to pay him that much, and the Seahawks could get something back. At best, probably a fifth-round pick. At worst, probably a seventh-round pick as far as the trade value for Sidney Jones goes. Four teams in particular, as I've been looking around, that stand out to me and possible destinations for him. The Steelers had a big win against Tampa Bay this past week. Still not out, even though it's a rebuilding year, and they need help in their secondary. The Ravens, also in that same division, they've had all sorts of problems with their secondary, and they've given up more yards than any team in the NFL this year through the air. They could be an option. The Lions, similar to the Ravens, giving up a lot of passing yards. They need some help. I mean, we saw what Geno Smith did to the Lions a few weeks ago. And then there's the Arizona Cardinals within the division, who certainly need some help in their cornerback spots, as that defense has a lot of issues there. So those are the top four, I think, possibly could make a play for Sidney Jones. We'll see if he ends up at one of those four destinations or somewhere else. Prediction time. Let me know in the comment section. Where will Sidney Jones get traded to? Will it be somewhere we mentioned or somewhere we did not mention? I'm very curious. Let us know. Predict it in the comments section where you think Sidney Jones will be traded to. Today's show is presented by BetUS, the exclusive sportsbook partner of Chat Sports. And they're offering a great deal just for viewers of Seahawks Today. If you use the promo code Seahawks125, you'll get a 125% deposit bonus at chatsports.com/bet. You put $100 down, you get $125 to spend for free. You can bet on NFL action this week, the NBA getting started, also got some college football lines in the MLB playoffs, all of it in one place, chatsports.com/bet, promo code Seahawks125. Let's talk about the Seahawks being buyers potentially now. That's according to Sirius XM NFL radio host Adam Koffler, as he says that the Washington Commanders running back Antonio Gibson would be the perfect fit for the Seattle Seahawks. Well, let's get to know Gibson a little bit more. He was a third-round pick in 2020 out of Memphis, and he has about 2 years, $2.33 remaining on his rookie deal. And it looks like the Commanders are already turning the page on Gibson, despite how young he is, as Brian Robinson is now the number one running back for the Washington Commanders at this point in time. And what's really fascinating is Gibson, through 3 years in his career, has done a fairly good job. You look at the numbers back to his rookie year of what he was able to put together, had close to 800 yards and 11 touchdowns. Last year ran for over 1,000 yards on the ground and had 7 touchdowns. This year, not quite to the start of what we've seen the last couple of seasons with 61 carries, 214 yards, and 2 touchdowns, but apparently looks like he's on the outs. He has had some fumbling issues here and there as well, so that's something to keep in mind. But a perfect fit, I'll give you my idea, what I think about this, and I want to show you a trade proposal in a moment. But before we get to that, though, now's your chance to be the GM here on Seahawks Today. Would you trade for Antonio Gibson? Is this a move you would make? If so, type T for trade. If not, type P for pass. What do you think about the idea? I'll tell you what I think here in just a second, but this is your chance to weigh in here on Seahawks Today. Get rowdy in the comment section. Let me know. Type T for trade, type P for pass if you would trade for Antonio Gibson. And, you know, if the Seahawks do make a trade for Antonio Gibson, or if they move on from Sidney Jones, we're going to be the very first to talk about it right here on Seahawks Today, as we are your Seattle Seahawks headquarters, covering your team like no one else is, with all the latest watch parties, live shows, breaking news, and more. Turn on notifications so you never miss a moment. And join us on Wednesday, Seahawks Today, live with yours truly. We get started about 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific for a little happy hour excursion, and I can guarantee you it is an entertaining time. So be here. You'll be glad you did. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on live shows just like Seahawks Today Live. Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, right here on the channel. Subscribe, youtube.com/SeahawksTV. Now, I'll say this. When it comes to potentially bringing in Antonio Gibson or any other running back for that matter, for me, running back isn't as big of a need as some people would think. Those kind of on the outside have made a big deal about the Seahawks looking for answers with Rashaad Penny going down and Kenneth Walker taking on that role. But those of you Seahawk fans, you know this. You saw this team throughout the preseason. And from what I've seen, I look at this and I say, hold the brakes here. I like what I saw, not only from Kenneth Walker, obviously. He's been really good these last couple of weeks. But DJ Dallas showed a lot of promise in the preseason, especially as a third down back. And then you bring in Tony Jones from the New Orleans Saints. And then there's still Darwin Thompson on your practice squad as well, who won a Super Bowl with the Kansas City Chiefs and played a nice role there. So for me, I'm looking at this running back room, those on the outside that don't know about Bug Eyes DJ Dallas and don't know about Tony Jones, don't realize that this backfield, even with the issues that they've gone with, of losing not just Rashaad Penny, but Chris Carson wasn't available, and also with Travis Homer being on IR right now, and he should be back at some point this year. He's not done for the season. I get it. I get there's been some issues. But this group is better than what people on the outside realize as far as I'm concerned. Here's a trade idea, though. Although I am not as concerned as others, this is what I would look at as a potential trade offer. 2023 sixth-round pick. I don't think that's asking too much. If I am going to trade for Antonio Gibson, if I were to do this, that would be my offer. I would say to Washington, take it or leave it. Sixth-round pick. Nothing more, nothing less. You want it? Here's what you got to do for it. 23 sixth-round pick. I think that is reasonable and could be a steal, quite frankly. Although I'm not as concerned as most people at this running back position, I look at that and I say, here's an opportunity to get a steal of some sorts. Sixth-round pick, be your number 2 running back, a proven back at that, still relatively young. I might make that. I might go ahead and make that call then. Who wins this trade? If this is the deal that is presented to Washington, if Seattle says, here you go, who wins the trade if it were to be executed like this? Is it Seattle? Is it Washington? Get rowdy in the comments section for me. Tell me who wins this trade if it were to go down, the Seahawks or the Commanders. And I'm going to make it real simple for you. Type C for Seattle. Type WAS for Washington. Let me know in the comments section below. You can also tell me on social media what do you think about this trade idea. Or if you got other trade ideas that you want to toss around to me, I am your voice. I am here to listen to what you guys have in store. Hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, even for the people on Facebook. I'm there too, at Tyler Jones Live. Appreciate you joining us. We'll see you next time right here on Seahawks Today. Have a great one.